And that's not a good sign either. Our castle nut is completely loose as well. Not good there. In today's video, we are back on the 2014 Subaru Forester project car. In today's video, we're going to be replacing our failed front outer tie rod end and replacing a broken wheel stud. With that said, let's go ahead and jump into the repair. All right, guys, first off, we're going to get our wheel off of here. Note our busted wheel stud. Hopefully it's the only one that's boogered up. All right, guys, so I've turned the steering wheel just a bit to angle this out to give you a better line of sight with the camera. Hopefully I don't block what I'm doing too badly with this. Normally you'd want to do it with the wheel straight ahead, but it doesn't really matter too terribly as long as you take note of the amount of turns getting this outer tie rod off the inner tie rod and get it pretty close, but you will want to get an alignment very close to the time that you do this so you don't prematurely wear your tires out if you don't have it bang on accurate, which you won't by eyeballing it. So first what we're going to do is get our cotter pin loose from our castle nut here on the outer tie rod end. And that's not a good sign either. Our castle nut is completely loose as well. Not good there. Very dangerous, actually. Good thing the cotter pin was there to keep that nut from completely backing off, because had it done so and this fell out, this guy would have completely lost steering and likely had a major accident. So, yeah, our castle nut isn't even tight, isn't even torqued down. I believe it should be a 19 millimeter, and it is, as you see, not tight at all, not tight in the knuckle, so at least we don't have to worry about that being stuck in there. But we'll go ahead and put this back temporarily so we can take our jam nut loose and get that broken free before we drop it out of here. Crazy. Was the end actually bad, or was it just the nut completely loose? Seems it was the nut loose rather than the joint, but we already got a tie rod. We're going to put a tie rod on it now. So, again, tighten that up. Today we're going to be using our USAG 285X wrenches, aka the Mac RBRTs, for half the price. 19 for our gem nut. And we have a 19 for our tie rod end, so I'm going to go grab another 19. And I believe it's a 14 for our inner tie rod, so it doesn't spin. All right, got our jam nut loose. Go ahead and back that off a little bit more. Try to keep all this from turning so we can keep this semi close to accurate when we put it back together. All right, jam nut's loose. Take our castle nut off. And drop this out. I mean, if it's normal vehicle and this is installed properly, then you're going to need to take a hammer and whack a couple blows here to knock this out. Not a good sign that that was that loose. So what we're going to do now is hold our inner tie rod straight, and we're going to do a little counting, and we're going to count our revolutions off so we can screw our new one on the same amount of turns, so we'll be fairly close with our front end alignment when we get this new tie rod end on here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 14 and a half. So we'll set that down carefully. Our new Subaru Genuine outer tie rod end is a 34161SA001. And try to get that back on there again as accurately as possible. It should be 14 and a half revolutions. So that should be our half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Now we're going to go ahead and install this into our spindle, which, thinking back, I think I might have called that a control arm absent-mindedly. And we'll put our castle nut in there, if I can remember where I set it. Paging Dr. Castle Nut, there you are. Ideally, you'd want to use new castle nut, but this one isn't damaged anyway, so there's no real need for it. And we're just going to temporarily tighten this up till I can go grab the torque wrench and torque it to specification. All right, so that's tight enough. Now we need to tighten our jam nut back. So we'll set that there. Set that there. And we'll try to hold everything in place as we run our jam nut back down to lock it in place. And we'll give her a little, just like that. There is a torque spec, but never in my life have I ever put a crow's foot on here with a torque wrench to properly torque a jam nut. You just pretty much jam it on there and you're good. I've never really seen one back off or, you know, thread back out of alignment. But again, this is temporary because we're going to go to the alignment rack anyway at the Subaru dealership and have them do the alignment for us, because unfortunately I don't have an $80,000 alignment rack here at my place. So Subaru dealership still does my alignments for me. So now what we got to do is get our torque wrench, torque this to specification, put a new cotter pin in it, and we can get on our broken wheel stud out here. All right guys, so we've got the torque wrench set to 27 Newton meters. Which of course we're in a bad spot. Looks like we tightened it up a little past 27 Newton meters with our wrench there. So we'll just loosen it a hair and recheck the torque now that we've fully seated that conical piece of the outer tie rod in that little slot there, or in that bore. All right guys, so that torqued down to about 34 Newton meters. Spec is 27 Newton meters. I'd rather have it a little bit too tight than a little bit loose, as we saw. Guys, that cotter pin was the only thing keeping that nut from coming loose and this from coming and dropping out and causing the owner of this Forester to lose their steering and potentially causing a wreck, serious injury, or death. I mean, working with suspension, working with braking systems is no laughing matter. It's a serious thing. You got to make sure everything is tightened, everything is torqued to spec. Thank God whoever was working on it put a cotter pin in it. Obviously they got distracted or something and forgot to torque this castle nut before they went to put the cotter pin in, but at least the cotter pin was there to save them. Gonna try to contact the previous owner of this car and see if there was any work done over here recently, and if so, who performed that work, because I'm curious to know who did this right here, because there was no way that this just loosened up on its own because that cotter pin kept it from turning. So whoever put it together just did not properly torque the nut before putting the cotter pin in there, locking it in place. Which again, scary thought, people's lives are on the line. Can't just be sloppy like that. So guys, once you've got it torqued to specification, if your hole does not line up with a groove or a notch in the castle nut, you can tighten it further to the next notch. That's not going to hurt anything, but you want to go ahead and put your new cotter pin in. And as we saw, again, it is crucial you put that cotter pin in there. You do not want to have no kind of cotter pin in there, no kind of backup safety in case that nut happens to start loosening up. So got our cotter pin in there. We're going to fold it over the top and take this here and fold it around the side. At least that's the way I've always done them. I know people do cotter pins differently. Some fold them down and up. Some just fold both ears up. Some fold both ears down. Some spread one way and one the other way. Some go over the top and the side. It's whatever. Just as long as you get it in there and lock it in place where it can't come out. So we're all done here. We're going to go ahead and steer the front wheels back straight, knock off our brake caliper bracket and front rotor, and attack that broken wheel stud, and we should be wrapped up here on the front end of this car. All right guys, let's go ahead and get this stud replaced. And take our brake line loose. Go ahead and grab our snap-on specialty socket for getting those caliper bracket bolts. This thing's great. Can't believe it took them that long to develop this thing to get around those strut bolts. Got that. Hang this up out of our way. The rotor off. And we'll get around to that busted stud. All right, y'all. Give it a little percussive maintenance. Just like so. And we'll grab a new wheel stud, which is a 28365 FE001. Go ahead and fish it in from the back like so. Get our Lyle stud installer. New lug nut. Put a little bit of oil on there to help this thing get on there without cooking. Get her lined up. And drive her in. And pull her off. And we're all set. Brand new wheel stud installed, ready to go. All right. Hub all cleaned up. For our rotor back up there. It's a coated rotor. It ought to be all right. Let's give her a little shot of brake part cleaner just in case we put our dirty, filthy hands on it at some point, which I don't believe we did. follows the specification. Put our brake line back up. And we can put our wheel on, torque our lugs, and we're all good here. All right, and we're all good. All we gotta do now is torque these lugs to 120 Newton meters or 85 foot-pounds, and we're all done. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you all in the next one.